Okay, let's see what is a API first. Okay, so this is how you know, right? See, you have your browser. Okay, and that's a web page, and you have a connected to the internet. You send a request, and then the web server, based on the request, it queries the database and it sends you a response. Okay, so here, what is API and what is the purpose of API? So API stands for Application Programming Interface. Okay. So what is that is nothing but you can treat it as a function which runs which is there in the web server, which is nothing but a program. Okay. You can just treat now as a function. What a function? When you call a function will do certain job. Correct? It will execute a set of code. Okay. So API is nothing but a software program or a function, you can tell. Okay, that allows two applications to talk to each other. Right? Suppose there is one code here. Okay. Let's assume that this database, right? This database has information about Hollywood movies. Okay, so there is a web server where you can query the information about Hollywood movies. Okay, so how you can query the Hollywood movies is, in the web server there will be some program. You have to invoke that function. Okay, there is it's a program, or you can treat it as a function. When you invoke the function, that function will run. That function will query the database. It will get the required information, and that function will send the response back to you. Okay, so basically what you have to do, if you want to get information, basically you have to invoke that function. Correct? That means you have to call the function. That function is called the API. Basically you are calling a function which is there in the web server. So the function runs in the web server. Okay. So what is the need of this? See, this API, how to invoke this function, right? How to call this function is nothing but using a URL. Now what is a URL? Right? You type google.com, right? What is google.com? When you type google.com, it will go to the Google server and get the HTML and CSS file and displays the web page, right? So this is nothing but the unique resource locator, right? It locates a resource. Okay. Similarly, here if you want to run a particular code, using a URL like this, you can invoke that code. You can call that function. That function will basically, it will do what is required. Like the function can query the database, get the information from the database and put it here, or the function can take information in the request, put that information in the request to the database. It can do anything. Okay, so this is what is the purpose of API. Right? Suppose you take a stock market. Okay, now you have that in the stock market you want to get the stock price of a particular stock. Okay, now what the stock market web server will do, it will expose an API. Okay, to the API you have to pass the stock name. Okay, when you expose the API, when you pass the stock name, that that API, that function, what it will do is, it will inquire the database and it will get the corresponding stock price and return to you. Okay, so this is what is API, right? It is nothing but a function running in a web server, which you will be calling from a remote PC through HTTP. Through HTTP you are calling this function, right? Through HTTP protocol you are calling this function, and this function is called the API and it does some work for you, right? So usually this is what is called as REST API, right? Invoking a function in the web server using the HTTP, right? That is what is REST API. Now what is REST API? Is an API for exposing business data. right, of a provider to his consumer via HTTP. Okay, it will expose his data. So see, I told you, right, stock market, it exposes the share price. Okay, so if you call that corresponding API, that API will return back you the stock price. Okay, so what are the clients? You can access the API from a web browser or from an iPhone application or Android application. Okay, and then these are the different HTTP methods. Okay, you can get information from the database through the API. You can post information. Okay, you can modify some information. You can delete information. You can also do some custom values. You can do some custom parameters. You can do that. Okay, it means instead of apart from these methods, you can have some your own methods. Okay, so the REST API is mainly used for exposing your business data. Right, business data can be anything, right? So you can Twitter can expose some of its APIs. So suppose right, usually what happens is right, usually so your business data can be right. There is a broker called Zerodha. Okay, this Zerodha is a stock market broker. Okay, what they do is basically they have these APIs. Okay, they provide these APIs. Okay, and then you can use their APIs, their REST APIs. You can invoke and you can place order. Like in stock market, you place order to buy a share, to sell a share, right? All these things you can do, right? Instead of that, for that, what you have to do, you have to log into Zerodha website, right? They have a application called Kite. You have to log in there and then you have to buy and sell the stock. Okay, so instead of that, what else you can do is you can write your own program. Probably in Python you can write. Okay, from your own program, you can call their API directly. So the API, first they will ask for authentication, like you have to send your username, because if you want to purchase a stock, right, you need which account you have to purchase. So you can send your username and password, and you can call that API to on that function. Okay, and once you are authenticated, then you can place the order to use a different API or the same API to buy a share, to sell a share. So you can write your own program, call the Zerodha API to log in and to buy and sell a share. Instead of using their portal, right, their website, you can create your own portal. And you can call their APIs to buy and sell share. Okay, and you can use their API, and you can, there is something called as algorithmic trading, right? You can using them algorithms, they take trading decisions. So this is what is API. Okay, let's see how this API works. So this is Postman. Postman is nothing but a client where you can make any request, right? Whatever you made, the same request you can make here. Okay, I'm like trying to make a get request, and let me try to do a get request to google.com. Okay, see, in the reply we have got okay, you have to make a HTTPS request. Okay, okay, so here this I'm using this, right, JSON placeholder.typecode.com/users. Okay, this is actually the URL to invoke a API. Okay, when I do a send, so now what it is doing is, it is giving me in the response, it's giving a 200 status okay, and it is given me a list of names, right, address, and this is a publicly available API. Okay, so first ID is 1, okay, and then for that ID you have a name, address, phone number, company. The second ID you have a different name. So generally you are getting some information about some people. Okay, so this this is what is called a URL to invoke a API. When I do a send, what happens is it will basically send a request to this server JSON placeholder.typecode.com. Okay, in this it will invoke the appropriate API, appropriate function running in this web server. What the web server will do, it will read this and it will basically reply in the JSON format. Now what is JSON? JSON is a format for representing the data. Okay, if you see, this is the JSON format. This is how a data is represented, right? How it is represented is by a key and a value pair. What is the key? Title. What is the title? Is social network. What is the year? 2010. This is the key. Rate. This is the rating. Release, when it got released. What is the runtime? How much time? Okay. So this is how a data is coming from the server. Usually for REST API, it returns data in this JSON format. Okay. The JSON format can be nested also. So this is one JSON object. In this you have a company name and then you have company contacts. So in the company contacts you have phone and email. So this is another object. Object inside another object. So inside you have employees. There are many employees. So employee is an array. There are 2 employees. Okay. So this is how you represent data in a JSON format, a key value pair. Okay. So this API, right, when I did a get, it replied me with the data in a JSON format. Okay, I can use this data and I can process the data. Okay, this is what is REST API. Okay, now what you can do is, here what we will be doing is, you will be writing this API. You will be starting a web server, okay, and you will be writing this API, okay, and we will be using a URL and we will be invoking an API. Okay, so this is what is called as web service also. So you service through the web, right? Okay, this is what we are planning to do now. Okay. In this exercise, first what we will be doing is we will be writing our own API in Java, and then we will be using this Postman and we will be invoking our API. Okay, probably we will be connected to some database like MongoDB or something, and then we will be probably creating a record in the database or retrieving record from the database and sending that information in a JSON format back here. Okay, these things and all we are going to play. Okay, and the data can be usually in a JSON format or in XML format also. See, it's basically representing a data in different format. Okay, suppose you have a bank account, right? You can also represent this data in a JSON format, right? Number, like number colon number of your account number. Or you can have this like this also. Inside the number tag, you can have the number. Okay. So this is one way, another way of representing the data. Okay. So this is what is API, right? You are basically invoking a function in the web server using a URL through HTTP. This will actually send a HTTP request. On seeing the HTTP request, with this URL, a particular function will be invoked. That function returns back the data in this format, in this JSON format. Okay, this is what is API.